Welcome to season 2 of Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentasana. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and trailblazers who share their raw, real stories of perseverance, resilience, and building a life and business with impact. We talk about everything from entrepreneurship and family to purpose and living fully. My goal is to inspire you to start that dream, push through the hard seasons, and wake up every single day ready to live the life you were born to live with passion and purpose. Welcome back, everyone, to Where Passion Meets Purpose. Today on the show, I have Kendra Cooke. She is an amazing woman, first and foremost. I always like to say that because I don't like to go into the bio and the accolades before I say what incredible human beings that I get to meet and connect with every day. And I'm so grateful for Kendra for being here. She is a TEDx speaker, a best-selling author, and an empowerment coach. She specifically focuses on financial literacy and mindset. And she is a 35-year CEO, a women's speaker, and a coach for women entrepreneurs. So Kendra, thank you so much for being here. We are going to learn so much from you today.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Jen. I'm so glad to spend some time with you and your audience.
Yes, amazing. And I'm just going to hold up really quick your book that you just released. It is called Embrace, Empower, and Evolve. Look at that gorgeous picture. I mean, you are, first of all, every time I see you, I feel like you emulate this like badass energy, but you're also so just authentic and kind and real. And so you're not like this badass CEO energy that you would think of, maybe back in the 80s and 90s with women who had to be badasses. You just have this warm way about you, but you're also so powerful, have built a huge real estate career for yourself, and now into coaching other women and entrepreneurs. You just emulate everything that I think every woman aspires to be as a leader.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. When I got into real estate, Jen, it was a man's world, and, fighting and scrapping and everybody saying, you got to figure it out and nobody help you. And that was one of the things when I finally broke down and had to hire a coach. I'm sure we'll get into that today. But when I finally hit the rock bottom and I had to make a decision, when somebody said, here, I'll give you the tools, I'll help you, we'll get through it, I was like, I want to live a life of paying it forward. There is no reason in 2026 that women don't collaborate and compare notes and share energy. And that's exactly why I went into this field. It was like I had to figure it out on my own for a really long time, and nobody should. Like, we don't do anything that's brand new. I mean, AI is the newest thing and I don't even use it. So I'm just telling you everything that I do worked 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and it works today. So I don't think there's anything new. I just think we are too nervous about sharing who we are and what we can give away. And I just never want to be that person.
Amazing. And, I think one of the things that you said about like hiring a coach, I think when we get to the place where we realize we really can't do it all on our own, no matter how well accomplished we are, how much, and sometimes even the more that you do accomplish, the more that you need someone else guiding you and just being that voice that's answering back to you what you probably already know about yourself, but just need someone else to hold the space to know and to remind you of the things that you can do, should do, whatever. You have that person in your corner. And I think it's so important for all of us to have a mentor, a coach, surround ourselves with other leaders and women who are doing the big things so that we can not feel like we're alone in this. And I'm the same with you. I love to collaborate with other women. The more I get, the further along I get in life, in, having a 15-year career in media and then 12-year career owning a business with my husband. And now this, I really do feel like we need each other more than ever. And so I love that you said that. And I want to hear a little bit more kind of about your background, because you really did build this kind of career that at one point almost broke you, right?
Yes. And I'll tag into the coaching situation real quick. I always tell people you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. So as much as we think we know what's going on, sometimes it takes somebody else to say, hey, I see something else that you don't see, good and bad, right? And so, yes, back to my career. So I, at 18 years old, left my little farm town where I grew up in Carterville, Illinois, and moved to the big city of Nashville, Tennessee to go to law school. and was going to work that summer at Opryland, which was a big theme park at the time. And when I got there, all the jobs were gone. And I had a limited amount of cash to live on. And my mom said, you know what? Don't go back home. Figure it out. And so I went to a temp agency. Now we're talking 1988. Okay, I'm an old girl here. So no GPS, no cell phone, no pager, and no credit card. I'm living on cash, written instructions, a newspaper, and a payphone with a quarter. Like, that's how my career started. And so I went to a temp agency, and lo and behold, they placed me as a weekend receptionist at a real estate office. And the gentleman and his wife that owned the company, just lovely humans, would come in on the weekend. They would bring me leftovers and, small portions of things from their lunch after church, because I was a starving college student. And they kept telling me, you're going to be a great realtor. And I'm like, are you crazy? I'm going to be an attorney. No way am I going to be a real estate agent. This sounds awful, right? People are coming in getting keys. It was before lock boxes, and we're all flipping through magazines looking for a picture of a house we want to buy. I mean, horrible. And so they just kept loving on me and pouring into me and seeing things in me. And so finally they made me an offer. And they said, you know what? If you'll come to work for us full time and go to college at night, if it doesn't work out, we will write a check for one full semester of your expenses in college. And I was like, I can't not afford to do this. You can't afford to do it. You can't afford not to. So I did it. And I didn't tell my family that I had left school for a couple weeks. And I just fell in love with real estate. And I got a PhD for 8 years. They moved me from the receptionist desk to an office administrator to a relocation division. I mean, there were foreclosures and short sales back at that time in the late 80s, early 90s. I learned all of that before I had to go through it again in the 8, 9, and 10 collapse. So I had a PhD before I ever had a real estate license and, the back end. So I was so grateful that that man saw something in me that I would have never seen in myself. So that started my 36-year career. I've been licensed 30 years now, but I did about 6 or 7 years just being an assistant and learning everything about the company. So when I hit the ground in real estate, in sales, I knew what worked and what didn't. Yeah. So I thought.
Right. I have a question for you. That's really, really good. So I thought, because you had all the knowledge, right? You didn't have sales experience, but you had knowledge. And so what do you think that knowledge gave you confidence, which it does, right? Knowledge is power. But what do you think was the impetus of being, and there's probably a lot in between what you just shared and where you ultimately got to, but what do you think was the impetus that happened where you realized you could actually succeed in sales?
Listen, I had no fear. And I think that if I can tell anybody listening to this, bet on yourself. If fear is just false evidence appearing real. We've all heard that, but I didn't have a spouse, a partner, significant other. It was me, myself, and I. And so no was just, you can't get a black eye on the phone. No was just putting me closer to the next yes. And so it gave me a ton of confidence. And when the deals started rolling in, the leads started rolling in, I was kind of that girl that I would just fake it till I made it, right? And that meant working all hours of the day and night. And that became very detrimental to my life and my marriage later in life because I didn't have any boundaries for myself.
Yeah, that is when you become, especially when you become successful and you have this successful career, and I'm sure this happened to you, it becomes part of your identity. And there's no reason why you shouldn't put all of your energy into it. But then when you're sharing your life with someone else and they're wanting a piece of you and you feel like you have to take away from what you're doing over here to do that over here, it feels uncomfortable. It's not because you've been doing it for so long on your own, right? And I think that's the thing that's hard when we, careers versus a job are two different things. And owning a career and having this be part of your identity, I'm sure when someone asks you to step back from what you're doing, you're like, no, that's part of who I am. I can't stop.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, for me, I got on a pretty good roll. And then, I got married and I had a child. And unfortunately, I talk about this in the book. I'm very raw and authentic and real in my book. So when somebody starts reading about me, they're like, holy cow. But so I was very torn with being the number one agent and all the accolades and Realtor of the Year and all of those things. And then I also had this baby and husband at home. And I felt super guilty when I was at home that I wasn't taking care of these clients that were trusting me with their biggest asset. And then I felt super guilty when I was at the office and I was missing things at home. And so I was driving home one night, Jen, and my little evil twin was on my shoulder and she said, everybody sleeps really sound in your house and you can just sneak out and go back to the office and work. And it worked the first time. And just like an addict, it just kept working. And so I just kept doing it. And I'm like, this is no harm, no foul. My family's sleeping. There's no guilt there, until I got caught. And so my husband, I got ratted out by a police officer. Told my husband, he was our neighbor and a friend of ours, that I worked a lot of hours. And my husband's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you don't know what's happening. So I got busted and my husband gave me an ultimatum. And one of the hardest points of my life, of hitting my knees and saying, oh my gosh, Lord, I prayed to be number one. I prayed to be successful. I prayed for my name to be in lights. I'm a little farm girl. And I also prayed for this family over here. I'm a cancer survivor and I have a baby that you gave me. And I'm just convicted and confused. And so within a couple weeks of begging for an answer, because my husband had given me an ultimatum, I was invited to an event. And it was a coaching event for real estate agent and lenders. And I cried the whole time I was there. Literally, I walked in the door. The first guy starts speaking. I'm bawling. Everybody's looking at me like, this woman is crazy. And everybody just kept speaking more and more to me. And I was like, wow, these people have all been where I am. And they've figured out a way to get out of it. So I'm going to follow this group of people. And so that was the first coach that I hired. But it was quite honestly a little bit comical looking back 20 years ago. But I kept telling everybody, I have a time management issue. Like, I don't have enough hours in the day. I have so much business and I don't have any systems and I can't stop going this direction to go create systems because I have all this business. And everything I was saying was time, task. And as I got in the coaching program about 90 days later, they looked at me and they said, you don't have a time management issue. You have a money issue. And I was like, just knocked me over, right? And so that goes back to, we don't know what we look like when we're in the frame. We don't know what we don't know, right? And so I built this career, but nobody, when I got my license, said, hey, don't forget to look at the finances. Don't forget, you're an independent contractor. You're paid on a 1099. The IRS is going to come knocking. Don't forget all of these things. Nobody told me that. So I didn't know what I didn't know. I'm in this frame thinking I have this beautiful family. I'm driving this fancy car and I'm one bad month away from bankruptcy.
Wow. That is crazy, because I think when we feel like we're operating on this high level and we're successful in our minds and we're accomplishing things and we're doing all the things, that the money must just be, coming along with it, right? Mm-hmm. And if we're not paying attention to our finances, and I think this is such an important point and probably something that's I told you before we hit record, very few women on that we actually talk about the literal aspects of finances. We talk about money, relationships, and energy and all those things, but we don't necessarily talk about the nitty gritty of your finances when you're an entrepreneur. So what did you learn through that?
Number one, awareness. The key to success with your finances is be aware. Like, super dial into your numbers. And I think that was step number one for me, because I had checks and I had credit cards. So, it was kind of one of those things is, next month I'm going to have a big deal. I'll pay the credit card off then. And then the deal doesn't happen and it rolls and I'm still putting things on a credit card. Right. And, I didn't know about quarterly taxes. What? I just thought I wrote a check to the IRS at the end of the year. Oh no, well, there's penalties when you don't do those things. So the very first thing was awareness. Hey, you're one bad month away from bankruptcy. I'm like, how does that happen? I'm making, bringing in $800,000 a year and I don't have anything to show for it. I got a beautiful house and a great family and a great car, but I owe for all of them, right? And so simple math for the ladies listening. If you're not looking at your finances, number one is separate your household and your business. Never commingle them. If the IRS comes knocking, you do not want to have one set of books if you're an entrepreneur. So first and foremost, 2 credit cards, 2 checking accounts, 2 savings accounts. Just separate it out. And then in the business, every month, get a piece of notebook paper, draw a line down the middle. all the expenses go on one side, all the income goes on the other. Subtract the expenses from the income, and you're either in the hole or you're in the red or in the black, right? You're in the hole or you got a profit. And I think that's the simplest way for people to start managing their money. That's just step 1 and 2 and 3, right? Create your accounts, be aware, and do the profit and loss. But it can be that simple. Then you can go to somebody else and say, okay, help me figure out how to do my quarterlies or whatever. But if we are not aware that we have money and we just keep racking up credit card debt, let me tell you something, the hole is big and it gets bigger every month. 29, 28, 31% interest on a credit card. When I learned that how much interest I was wasting, it was just unfathomable. But here's the one thing that really broke me was I had to go tell my husband we were one bad month away from bankruptcy. He didn't know. I was in charge of the money. So ladies, money is super emotional. I get it, but rip the Band-Aid off sooner. It becomes less emotional when you're not trying to hide or rob Peter to pay Paul or keeping a dirty, dark little secret. And so when I went to tell my husband, I want to do this coaching program, but it's the most expensive one that I know of, and I can't afford to do it. And he looked at me and he said, and you can't afford it.
Wow. So he really he had support for you, even though there were, wow.
Yeah. And he said, we'll get through it. Let's just come clean. Let's do this together. So for 3 years, no vacations. We were the staycation family. To be honest, I sold my 430S Mercedes that I bought off of the showroom floor and paid cash for it. I sold it and took the money and paid my debt, which was the right thing to do, right? And I bought a Hyundai. I love that little Hyundai. It's so fun. But here I was trying to keep up with the Joneses, and I have no money. And I think that we could really pull back some curtains on a lot of people in the world today, and they're in the same position, that we're living above our means. I say this all the time. I live in a smaller home than my husband and I've ever lived in. And I work because I want to. I retired at 47 because I could. And then I went back and did a 6-year career with the coaching company that changed my life and helped them really grow. And then I said, okay, I'm going to move to the beach in Tampa and retire. And that lasted 3 weeks. I'm not meant to be retired, but I get to do what I love. And when I talk about money being emotional, that's where I want you to go. Money can solve a lot of problems. And no emotions around money is key. We got to get to the point where money is not emotional for us as women, and we're educated about it and we understand it and we can have hard conversations. We don't have to love it, right? I don't love doing a budget, but I'm pretty daggum good at it, and I want to know where my money is. I don't want emotion and fear and anxiety around money. I mean, it's the top 3 reasons people get a divorce. My husband and he never quit on me. Thank God. We'll have 30 years of marriage on May 11th this year. And we've been through some tough times. We were broke when we got married. We talk about that in the book. And then we went back into debt unknowingly, and we swore we would never do that. And so when we got out of debt the second time, we were like, we will change the trajectory of our kids' lives. We will teach them about money. We will not have emotion around it. And I'm so grateful for the hard times, but it is so nice to be on the other end of that now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I hear you. Most of my listeners know the story of my husband and I, but when we came together, we were both doing great financially. Like we had our own careers for, 10, 15 years ish. And, came together, buttoned up, bought our first home. We were the best interest rates, all the things, because it was easy. And then when he got let go from a career and I kind of decided to take some time off to focus on having a baby and started my coaching practice, everything went, and we kind of started over from scratch. And luckily we had our home, and then, some things happened, launched a restaurant. Then again, so we've done the up and down thing, been through it all. And I can say that money is not, it has been an emotional thing in my life. And now I look at it completely differently because I know that money comes. We can make money. We can make more money. It's not about the money. It's about how you're using it and your belief system around what it is and the why you want the things you want that you think you need to have and buy that you may not really need. And so I think that's a big piece of it too, is really taking a look at your financial situation, like you're saying, do a budget, do all those things, but then also ask yourself, like, if I'm going to go out and buy that new car, why do I really need that new car? What is that new car going to do for me in the big grand scheme of things, of my life, my values, my purpose, my mission, all of those things? If it's something that your identity is attached to, then let's take a look at what that is, right? And I think that's such an important, conversation to have when you say money, like take the emotion out of it. It's not the money. The money is just the tool. Right. And I think that's the thing that we all get so caught up in, that we really need to have those realistic conversations about our why we want the things that we want. So we stop putting things on the credit card at the end of the day. Right.
Right. And we can go back and give ourselves a lot of grace too, because, I came from a broken home. I never knew if we had a dime or a donut. So money was never talked about in my home. Never. Never, ever, ever. So that gives us some emotional disadvantage, right? For us that didn't have an education from our families. My mom always worked 2 jobs, so we didn't do without, but we didn't have a plethora of money. So I didn't like money. I had a love-hate relationship with money, right? And then, we get in high school and everybody's like, oh, go to college, marry a rich boy, get out of the, farm town, blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't need to learn about money. I was going to go to college and marry a rich boy, right? So it was like, I didn't need to know about money. And then you start making money. And then comes the judgment of, if you're the biggest earner, most of your listeners are women, so they will appreciate this. But if you're a big owner, big operator, big earner, you couldn't possibly have gotten there by yourself. You had to sleep your way there, or you had to inherit that. Yeah. Or never was it by the sweat of my brow that I was making 7 figures, right? So there's that judgment. And then if I'm the smallest earner trying to get in a bigger circle, then I'm looked down on because I'm not in their group. So there's judgment. So rightfully so, money is emotional, but we have to change our mindset about taking the emotion out of it and just make it tactical. Hey, if I got $20,000 a month, I can spend 20. I can't spend 20,001. I don't have it, right? Yeah. And if your plan is to retire, then start slashing down that 20 and whatever you can get out of it and start saving it and investing it. And there are so many great money tools out there, simple money tools for us now that I didn't have 20, 30 years ago, that we can start teaching ourselves about money. I just think money for women has always been the stigmatism and, I don't want to be, I don't want to be rich, or I don't want to be this. I have just written a class called Redefining Rich, because I am rich. I am rich with a family. I am rich with health. I am rich with money. Rich does not mean a number. We have to redefine the way we talk about money. So I have a couple big speaking events coming up this spring, and I'm going to talk about redefining rich for a woman, to where it's more about clarity and not chaos, and removing anxiety and have it more visible, where we learn our numbers. And I just think we have to change our mindset a little bit. So I love money talks. I could talk about money all the time. So
yeah, I love it, because what I think, again, you're doing is you're taking it from this ethereal thing down into, it's just a tool. It's just, let's take the emotion out of it. Let's learn how to make it work for us, instead of creating all this anxiety and chaos around the money flow in our lives. And I think that's such a powerful, just important lesson. So you brought something up about, it was, I'm blanking on what you said, but basically you have a planner that's a tool that people can use that has some financial, guidance in it as well. Is that correct?
My daily well planner? Is that what you're asking?
Your daily well planner. Do you mind grabbing it and just holding it up real quick? Yeah.
So this is the Daily Well. You can follow us on Instagram, Daily Well Planner. It is a tool because I am all about systems and structure. That's how I manage my life. But in this, it's a 6-month planner for women. And so in the front, you set your 6-month goals with action items. There is a tool in here that teaches you how to do a very simple budget. So if you are looking for a tool to do that, there's 6 months in their guide, step-by-step guide of how to do that. And then your workflow day is in here. And because I am super structured, it starts with starting strong, your morning routine. You get to track your movement, your hydration, your nutrition, your sacred pause. There's a place for affirmations, gratitude journal, or reflection. And then your workflow is each day on there, your power moves and your to-do list. And then in the back, there's about 20 pages of lined note pages. So when you go into a meeting, you can take this and keep all your notes in here for the months that you're using the calendar, and then shelf life it. You can always go back to it. So super durable, plastic coating front and back. So if you set it down in water, you're going to be fine. Tabs that separate everything. It's just super organized. This was our first go. I have a business partner, Julie Davis, and I created it. So our first one came out in October for the first 6 months of this year, and our new one will come out in April. If you want one now, I think they're still 50% off for the rest of the 6 months, and then the new one will come out in April for the next 6 months.
That is amazing. I'm telling you, I'm going to buy all, I told you I buy all my new clients planners and the women that join my mastermind. I get them planners, a gratitude book and some little extras. And this is going to be my new planner because I love how simplified you make it and how you have everything in one place. It's the organization as well as the financial and then the notes. So you're not pulling 3 different binders every time you go somewhere. I mean, I'm doing that. I have one notebook that's for one thing. I have a journal. I have a gratitude book. I have a planner. I have so many different books. And I love that this is everything in one and it's only 6 months at a time, which is amazing so that you can put that away and start fresh in the next 6 months. Like everybody does the year. So what a genius idea that you did 6 months.
Well, we kind of, there's a note in there from Julie and I on the front, and that's exactly was me, Jen. I'd travel and I'd have my gratitude journal and I'd have my daily devotional and I'd have a notebook and I'd have my calendar. And I'm like, my book back weighs more than my suitcase when I'm traveling. This is ridiculous. Something's got to give. And so Julie and I partnered together, and yes, it is. And we love this 6 months because you guys, a lot of times life happens. Life is going to happen. And we get halfway through the year and we're like, well, there's no way these goals are going to happen. So I'm just going to ditch all of them and I'll start over next year. We love the 6-month goals because we can get a lot of things done and accomplished in 6 months and check those boxes, do some mini victories, celebrate, and then move on to the next 6 months. I love the fact that we have to high five our dang selves because nobody's coming to cheer us on and nobody's coming to save us. And so this is a way that you can celebrate with yourself every 6 months that you've had some mini victories and some wins. And so we love how it turned out. We're excited about the second revision. We'll have a few minor changes, but we love the concept of it. So
I love it. It's awesome. And then I know we lifted and showed the book before, but I just want to touch on this book a little bit. I just can't get over how gorgeous this picture is. Before we hit record, I told Kendra ladies that I have this in the background on my shelf because I think it's like such a pretty book. And you just look gorgeous in it. But so tell us about like the impetus of writing this book. Who is this meant for? And kind of, because I know for me, my book was all about just sharing my story and my passion, my mission, my belief in reaching more women and sharing with them that they're not alone on this journey. So I'm curious, what was your reason for writing it?
Yeah, so Embrace, Empower, Evolve was going to be my gap year when I left corporate coaching company and moved to the beach. I'm like, I tell my kids, they're grown, hey, I'm going to take a gap year and I might write a book. And I just started really praying about it and taking a lot of long walks. And I have been an avid journaler for 35 years. And so I was like, I've got a lot of great stories in these journals that I could write kind of an autobiography, memoir, if you will. But I'd love to marry it with my passion for journaling because people ask me all the time, how did you start journaling and how do you know what to write? And I thought, you know what, if I can help ladies see that there is no one perfect in the world, and I like progress over perfection, and I will be raw and real from debt stories to I was married prior to my wonderful husband, Greg, now for a very short time, to an addict who was super physically abusive. And when we got a divorce, I didn't know who my friends were. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know who was siding with who. And so journaling was my place of just, I could be raw and real and there was no judgment. I could cry, I could cuss, I could pray, I could do whatever I needed to do that day. And it just became a way of life for me. And so I teach people, especially my coaching students, the first page in the back of the Daily Well for them has many victories. And so every day they need to record some kind of mini victory. Hey, my hair looks great today, or I showed up on time, or whatever. But we're all going to have hard times. And you can go back and look at your mini victories and be like, you know what? I survived a million bad days and I'm still kicking it with all these victories, I'm going to be okay. And so, the book was written for anybody who wants to read somebody's really raw, real story about sales and growth and failure and money problems. And, I have chapter 4 is Money Matters. There's a whole chapter in there about my name. I never really loved my name. And I always thought it came from somewhere else. And I learned that where my name really came from when I was writing my book after talking to my parents. And, I kind of close out that chapter with, I want my name to stand for more when I'm not here than it does for when I'm here. I want to leave the world a better place. And so paying it forward and just letting people know you're not alone, whether you've been divorced or abused or broken or filed bankruptcy or didn't raise perfect children. So it is. Me too. Welcome to the club. And then at the end of each chapter, I give you 4 or 5 questions to journal back about the topic I just talked about, whether it's acceptance or courage or, money or whatever. And so it was just raw and real. I self-published it. I really didn't know it would go anywhere. I was going to take the whole year off. And as soon as it hit Amazon, I've been on the road nonstop speaking. And I'm so happy and grateful for every opportunity to do that.
Yeah, you're amazing at it. I just got to see you on stage at Align in San Diego, and you're a fabulous speaker. And we got to find out all the stages you're going to be speaking on. And you mentioned you're going to have a couple coming up in the spring, and I can't wait to follow your career. You are amazing, Kendra. I think you're such an inspiration to so many women, and especially someone who has had all of the success that you had and still found yet another career, another path beyond that was even more aligned to who you really are after you go through these lessons and these journeys. And I think that's truly what true evolution is about, and being able to be, an example for other women who may be in a place in their career where they've done all the things, but it's not fulfilling them anymore. I know a lot of women that I work with that are like that, and they're in that transitional place, or maybe they're empty nesters and they're thinking, is it too late for me? And I think, like you said, you're the serial, like you're never going to really retire because you keep finding yourself having another purpose, having another reason to get back out there, writing a book. There's always something more that we can be doing to share our stories, our lessons, our purpose with the world. And you're doing all of that for so many women. So thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for being here and sharing your story with our audience. And we're going to share all the ways to connect with you in the show notes. And I'm trying to think what else. Go buy the book, Embrace with Empower and Evolve with Kendra Cooke. It is this cover. I'm going to brag again one more time. Gorgeous cover. Find it on Amazon. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much, Kendra, for being here.
Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this episode beneficial. And if you feel compelled to do so, share it with a friend who might benefit too. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Reach out to me anytime on my website at jenmentasana.com.